All right, it's 5:30. Let's call the Mandan Public School District Monday, September 16th meeting to order. Next item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none from administration. Anybody else have any changes? Seeing none, what are the wishes of the board? We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, please call roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is public communications. Anybody in the audience wish to address the board? Anybody in the audience wish to address the board? Seeing nobody moving, we'll move on to the next item. Is the administrator's report. The first item on there was a board picture. We took care of that already, so we'll move on to the update on the Mandan High School graduation. Dr. Bitts.
Construction update.
What did I say?
Graduation. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not ready
The
for
way
this.
this year's going.
And I did hand out a sheet again, but we did move into the CT in our classrooms. We moved in last week. We moved into the culinary kitchen as well. Band and choir, we're going to move in this week. And I had put down Wednesday when I typed it up this morning. I think just due to some scheduling and people getting there, it might be Thursday or Friday when it happens. But I walked through it today. It looks really good. That music area is going to be really nice. And wish it was Wednesday, but I think it may be a little later in the week. Locker room and weight rooms, they're doing flooring in there now. Should move into those the following week. CT shops, our plan is to be in all 5 shops by the end of October. The main gym, the end of November, hopefully Thanksgiving time. We should be in there for all of basketball, both girls and boys basketball season. Then the auditorium right now, we haven't talked a lot about that. I'm just saying 2025. So.
Any questions? I just recommend if any of the board hasn't been up to walk through it, see one of those 3 over there and take a chance to walk through it. It really looks nice. It's coming along well. Was through it last week one day. Moving on then, 24-25 enrollment update.
Correct, and I printed a couple of pages out of Power School. Basically what it shows is I compared, I did this last week, I compared 9/11 of 2024 to 9/11 of 2023, and we have an increase of pre-K through 12, which is our early childhood special education program through our senior year. We are up 64 students.
Dr. Bitts, what was the projection? Do you remember off the top of your head?
From RSP, they had us up about 60 students, but there's this kindergarten, it's not pre-K.
Okay. So about the same then. He's
Yep.
pretty much
Yeah.
pretty close.
They're right on, yep.
All right.
I think when Ryan built his budget, we put about just over 40 or right at 40 in, so we should be in good shape.
All right. Any further questions?
I guess I do have a quick question. Enrollment, is there a certain time? I see 1,003 at the middle school. Is there a certain time when we close open enrollment?
We can. It seems like almost all of our open enrollment are our kids who stay. You know, we don't have very many students who have no connection to Mandan who just come here. I think we have 2, is it later on this afternoon, that are our students that want to continue to be our students. We can always have that conversation. It's once you with open enrollment though, it's you either participate or you don't. I think right now we have about 100 kids in our district that open enroll into our district. Almost all of them started out in Mandan and just want to continue here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Next item, North Dakota High School Athletic Association spectator ejection policy.
Correct. The High School Activities Association adopted a policy. They did it at the state level. And my hope is that I think we've already had one parent in Mandan affected by this. My hope is that we don't have any more and that we don't have any visiting parents that get affected by it. But it's just an awareness for our fans and for fans of other teams as they come to Mandan. Behave. It's not none of us wants to ask someone to leave or to send them out of a building, and if they do, they're suspended for the next 3 games of that sport. And if it happens twice, they're suspended for a calendar year.
Any questions for Dr. Bitts on that?
How do you go about finding out who this person is if you don't get a name or something? How do you know that that person's not coming back?
Well, I mean, you're right. It would get really hard to do that, but we basically, the way the process was explained to us is, if I have to go up to someone at a game, generally I'm going to go up and say, please don't put yourself and me in this position, change, and I won't have to ask you to leave. And if they do it again and I have to ask them to leave, the game will stop until they leave. And then I'm going to visit with people around them, get their name, or if they don't give it to me, then we have to send that to Valley City, and we have to say that this person was ejected on December 1st at a basketball game in Mandan or a hockey game in Mandan. And, we tell the other schools that their next 3 games should be, generally our parents follow their kids. And if they're that upset, is it a perfect? No, I think that you're right. Somebody could still try to attend a game at another place, but.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then we'll move on to the North Dakota School Board Association Annual Convention.
Correct. And you can see we have the tentative program is there. I have heard from Lori, Tom, and Amy, and we'll get them registered. If the rest of you are going to attend or would like to attend, please let us know and we'll get you registered.
When's the cutoff date on the?
I didn't look again. I'm sorry. Usually it's 2 weeks before, so I think we have a couple of weeks. I'll say our next meeting is October 7th. Let's just try to use that if we can.
All right, that makes sense. North Dakota or National School Board Association Convention.
Correct. It's been several years since we've attended. It's in Atlanta this year. If there's any interest, please let us know and we'll get a group together again.
They have an agenda on that one yet?
They do not. I went on that website and I was looking. They got the dates, but they don't have an agenda.
It's a little far in advance, but
yeah.
If anybody wants to go to that one, please let Dr. Bitts know. Okay. Anything else? All right, next item on the agenda is a consent agenda, review and consider approval of previous board minutes from September 3rd, 2024, review and consider approval of June 2024 revenue report, the June 2024 expenditure report, and the June 2024 bills. What are the wishes of the board?
I would move that we approve the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second?
A second.
And we have a second. Please call roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item is unfinished business. We have no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. The first item under new business is review and consider approval of fiscal year 24 financial reports and financial report for publication. Mr. Legacy.
Yeah, included in your packet is our end-of-year financial report. I'm going to go through briefly page by page. Please stop and ask questions as we're going through if you have any. And I'm going to jump right in. Page 1 starts our revenue sources for our general fund, and I'm just going to hit the highlights. On the bottom of column 1, you'll see our total local revenue for last year was $14.4 million. That is generally made up of our general fund property taxes and our miscellaneous levy that we have. That's the major funding sources there. On the right side of that page, at the bottom, you'll see our total state revenue, $43.3 million. That is 70% of our revenue. So as we talk tonight at the budget hearing, as we get closer to legislative session, when we talk about the school funding formula and the increase in per pupil payment, that's why it's so important to us. That state revenue makes up 70% of all of our revenue. Flipping over to page 2, you'll see our federal revenue of $3.2 million. That's made up of our title grants through DPI. That revenue is an in and out for us. We'll have the exact amount of expenditures in our general fund as we do for revenue. We have to pay for it to get reimbursed. Then on the very bottom of page 2, you'll see our total revenue for the year of $61.3 million and our total expenditures for last year of $60.8. So we did have a surplus of about $500,000. Last year, our preliminary budget, we had projected a deficit of $500,000, so there was a swing there. I'm still comfortable with it. We were close, and with opening Lakewood and through construction, I expected it to be, a little variance there. Going into page 3 for our expenditures, page 3 and 4 of our expenditure report cover our regular programs, federal programs, and undistributed programs. What that means for the state is they put those in a pool and use those expenses as our average cost per pupil, which we'll talk about later. These expenditure reports get broken down into very detailed line items, so I'm not going to go through every line item, just so you know. Pages 5 and 6 show our expenditures not included in the average cost per pupil. So these are going to be transportation costs, extracurricular costs, tuition costs, and our debt service payments. Jumping ahead to page 7 and 8 is our total cost for our special education program. These are broke down by disability, so you can see the amounts that we spend per disability, and our total special education costs for last year were $9.7 million. Page 9 gives a breakdown of our total vocational education program expenditures. Again, these are broke down by program. Those are $1.8 million for the year.
Mr. Legacy, on that current tech ed stuff here, is this all ours, or does this include some from the consortium?
This includes some Heart River expenses as well. We need to get those Heart River expenditures broken out of our budget and into a completely separate fund. But for right now, they're in Mandan's books. They will be for this fiscal year that we're currently in right now, but we need to get those separated out. Okay. I'm going to jump ahead to page 10. This gives us our breakdowns on our other funds. You'll see our Fund Group 2 on Special Reserve Fund we do not have. Fund Group 3 is our building fund. Obviously, we're carrying a large amount of money over with $35.4 million at the end of the year. This is where we're accounting for all of our construction costs for Lakewood and the high school. We'll have one more year of large expenditures through that account. At the top of page 11 is Fund Group 4, our debt service fund. This fund is used to pay back any of our debt related to our voter-approved projects. I do want to make one note. You can see we started the year with $5.4 million. We're ending the year with $1.7. That's a significant increase in spending there. We paid off the middle school bond out of Fund Group 4. That's why we have a much lower balance this year. Fund Group 5 is our hot lunch fund. You can see a deficit this year of $280,000. That is a little bit concerning. That deficit is almost entirely made up of food cost increases for the year. Last year we spent $1.3 million on just food alone. That was a $266,000 increase from the year before. We need to monitor that with Ms. Heinert, our food service director. We do not want a deficit spend out of our hot lunch. If we do deficit spend overall and spend down past that 610, we do need to make that up from the general fund. So we're going to monitor that over the next year and really kind of keep on top of our food costs.
Mr. Legacy, you just made the comment that 610 is the floor there?
No, 610. If we spend down to zero, we still have
Okay, you said
610,000 in
610.
reserves.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
wanted to check if there was
Yeah.
a mandated state floor.
There
there
is
or
not.
something.
No,
Okay.
And we're lucky in our hot lunch fund. We have been self-sufficient, which most districts are not in the state. So they're supplementing from their general fund to their hot lunch fund every year. We've been doing very, very good. But this is 2 years in a row now of deficits in our hot lunch fund.
Thank you.
We did increase fees, yes. Dr. Bitts reminded me, we did increase fees. And honestly, we're going to have to next year going forward as well. At the top of page 12 is our student activity fund. This is all of our FFA, FCCLA, all those user groups that we have. I try not to get too involved in this, but carried over an additional $80,000 last year in surplus. We have a healthy balance of $740,000 there. Fund Group 7, Trust and Agency Consortiums. That includes our flex spending account and our health insurance fund. Our flex spending is basically dollar in, dollar out. So what you're seeing here is our carryover for our health insurance fund. So we started the year with a $537,000 surplus in the bank. We're ending the year with $1.3 million. It seems like a large amount to carry over for our health insurance fund. However, we have some large expenditures coming out with the Medallis Clinic opening up in 2025. So we will spend down that ending balance pretty significantly to start the new calendar year. Page 13 is just a summary page for all of our funds. One note on the top with our general fund, our ending fund balance shows 9.1 million. Our ending cash balance is 8.8 million. I already have a note into our auditors. There was some adjusting entries made on our books a number of years ago that I need to work with them to make sure that we can get that to match. So I'm not gonna lie, it's bothering me. So it needs to get corrected. Page 14 is our outstanding indebtedness. The state tracks this as we are capped to, I believe, is it 10% of our taxable valuation is all we can borrow. That's what that page is for, assessed value, yeah. And then page 15 gives us a cost breakdown for average cost per pupil. You'll see across the top, the state breaks these categories down to pre-K, kindergarten, grades 1 through 6, 7, 8, 9 through 12. The way we account in our accounting system does not match how we report them to the state. So, for example, if you look down at the very bottom of that 7-8 column to the average cost per pupil, and you see $15,907 per pupil in middle school, that is not correct in 7 and 8. We have expenditures for 6, 7, 8 that are getting reported here that the state doesn't account for those students in that column. So I just want to point out that discrepancy. We always have it. There is no way to correct it on per column. So please just look at the total average cost per pupil this year. That's down very bottom right side of $12,488 per student. The state average we'll talk about later. I want to say that's about $14,000. So we are well below the state average on average cost per pupil. Then the final page of the report for publication is just our summary breakdown that goes into the Mandan News that we will publish. So I went real quick, but are there questions?
Any questions? Go ahead.
I can't listen to budget without thinking about this Measure 4 that's coming up because it's so concerning to me how it will impact us. And I'm wondering, Mr. Legacy, if you could talk a little bit how, like you were saying that for our we don't have to borrow against the general fund for our food. We have a lower cost per pupil than other, we always, every year we have a really healthy budget and we've been such good stewards of that. Can you briefly, talk about the impact that would have next year should that Measure 4 pass, which is elimination of property taxes, which impacts schools very much?
It will, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Betts. He's been much more involved with.
I think my biggest concern is right now I know that if that gets enacted, the city right now charges me for my garbage. They charge me for my water. I pay those fees, and they can continue to charge me those fees. They can suddenly say, hey, you're going to pay a snow removal fee. You're going to pay a police protection fee, and they can charge me fees. We as schools have to provide a free and appropriate education. We cannot charge fees. We cannot charge a student a math fee or a reading fee or a science fee. So that's concerning to us. I think right now the state under Measure 4 is obligated to give us what we got this year. I worry about when everything goes up every year, and it does. We're talking about our hot lunch, how food, the increase of costs of food, and I just don't see how the state is going to be able to sustain that moving forward. And I think that it's going to be very problematic for schools. That, my opinion, I think it's concerning. Right now, we get about 70% of our dollars from the state, and if they freeze it at that level for 2 or 3 years, it's going to be problematic for us.
So, for instance, just to expand on that, we went up by 64 students. Those 64 students have to rise to meet if that went up again. I mean, you end up getting shorter and shorter every year when you're locked in.
That's one of the questions. Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. That's one of the questions we have right now. We get paid per pupil, but the dollar amount we receive from the state is locked in. So if we pick up 100 students, they are only obligated to give us what we received this year in dollars and not an increase for the amount of students we get. Yes. So that is concerning.
Any other questions? What are the wishes of the board of the approval of the fiscal year 24 financial report and financial report for publication? All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? And we have a second. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Seeing none, please call roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item, review and consider approval of compliance reports for the individual Mandan schools. And the next one also after that is review and consider approval of the compliance report for the Mandan School District together. Do you want to do them both?
Yeah, we can roll them
All right,
together.
thanks,
They
Dr.
they
Rivera.
make a lot of sense together. So you'll just see each school's annual compliance reports in there, and those are things like we have qualified staff. We're doing the required professional development, like mandated reporter training in cybersecurity. We're doing fire drills, all of those federal and state level requirements within schools. One thing that you will note on a few of our schools, there is a note in there. Right now in North Dakota, we are required to have one school counselor for every 300 students. And there's a few buildings that we do not meet that ratio on right now that you'll see a note in there. And that's purely from lack of applicants. We've had those positions advertised. It's not that we don't want to fill them, we just have not had candidates. Now, we've addressed issues with social workers and with some outside counseling, but those don't count in meeting that ratio. So that's why you will see that on a few of the buildings. Other than that, we were compliant across the board in all of the areas. And then on the district one, it's really just a summary of all the different schools and that we are compliant as a district.
All right, thank you. Any questions? If not, what are the wishes of the board? And when you make the motion, can you include the individual Mandan schools and the compliance report for the Mandan School District in total? If somebody said that.
The compliance reports for the individual Mandan schools and the compliance report for the Mandan School District.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
And we have a second. Any further discussion? Comments, questions? Please call roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Last item under new business, review and consider approval of an open enrollment application seeking a deadline waiver. They should be laying on your desk. Everybody should have one. Dr. Rederath?
Yes, you will see that we have open enrollment requests for two student siblings. They were our students moved to Bismarck and would like to continue to go to school here in Mandan, and we would recommend that you approve.
And this is a 10th and 11th grader. right?
Yes.
Any questions or motions from the board?
I'll motion to approve the open enrollment application.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
And we have a second. Any further discussion, comments? Seeing and hearing them, please call roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item is future meeting date, September 16th, which is tonight, budget hearing. We'll start at 6 o'clock in City Hall. September 23rd, student achievement, 5 o'clock at the Brave Center. September 30th, policy and personnel, 5 o'clock at the Brave Center. October 7th, regular school board, 5:30 here at the Brosh-Fralick room. And October 14th, the Heart River CTE, that is via Zoom at 5:30. Any other meetings? Hearing and seeing none, this meeting is adjourned, and we'll call the budget hearing together at 6 o'clock. Thanks, everybody. All right, at 6 o'clock, we'll call to order the Mandan Public School District budget presentation hearing. We'll call that to order. And the first item on the agenda is the budget presentation. Mr. Legacy?
Yeah, good evening. Purpose of our budget hearing is to present to the school board members our proposed budget for the year and also give community members a chance to give input. We'll start, I know we just went through our enrollment projections at our school board meeting, but I want to go over them again. We have RSP demographics at Kansas City. That better? Okay, sorry. We have RSP enrollment projections done for us regularly. I believe it was 2 years ago, Rob and his team were out to update our projections for us. They do K-12 enrollments. And if you look at the black line to the right of that, the school year 24-25, RSP was projecting 4,390 students K through 12. And I believe as of last Wednesday, we were at 4,392. So projections are right on. We have grown significantly in Mandan. Since 2006, 2007, seen an increase of 1,370 students. It's a 45% increase, and we are still projected to grow. The one maybe positive is I believe our facilities, we're in a good spot with our facilities to handle the growth. If you look below that chart is broken down to elementary in red, the blue is in middle school, and the green is high school. Our elementary growth is projected to be pretty flat over the next 4 or 5 years. Middle school we will grow, and the high school will continue to grow as well. We obviously are well positioned for growth at the high school. The middle school is going to present some challenges for us, but I think we can make that work. But I do think overall, facility-wise, we're in a very, very good position. Enrollment is crucial for us. Our North Dakota state funding formula is based on a per pupil guarantee amount. So as our school district grows, the Mandan School District takes in more revenue. This year, our state per pupil guarantee is $11,072 per student. The state assumed local contribution is what our 60 mills in Mandan generates. That's deducted from that $11,072 per student to give the state portion of our guarantee to Mandan is $8,423. The $11,072 is guaranteed. Not every district gets the same contribution from the state. I just want to make that clear. Mandan has done very well on the current formula. We get roughly 70% of our revenue from the state, and you'll see later that that is much higher than the state average.
Mr. Legacy, just in consideration, if that bill passes with the mill levies and it wasn't replaced by anybody, we would lose $2,600, right?
We are guaranteed to stay at our current funding rates.
So we would stay at the 11,072.
The way it's written, yeah. Yes.
Dr. Betts?
We would stay at the total state contribution that we received, which is like $41 million, or between 40 and 41 million dollars. That's what we're guaranteed from the way the bill is written, or the way the measure is written.
No, that's my question, because that 2,649 is about $10 million based on the prior schedules we went through over our meeting in relation to it.
Take that back. They have to give the 60 million not the federal funds, but they're obligated to give us the local funds we collected in our general fund and the state funds that we received.
So plus that 10 million. Then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Yes. Correct.
I had it straight in my mind after we had that
Correct.
conversation.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're right. I said that wrong initially.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, jumping ahead, if we can get it back on the screen. What I'm going to show you is a few slides here that kind of compare Mandan to our Class A peers and also a state average. It's 22-23 because that's the last year of data that we have here. So this first slide shows our percentage of revenue from the state. So in 22-23, it was just over $40 million, which is 68.4% of our revenue came from state sources. Remember from our board meeting just a few minutes ago, we talked about our state revenue was $43 million, and we were just ticking over 70% of our revenue comes from state sources. You can see the state average at 54%. So again, the funding formula as it's currently written is very, very good for Mandan. Our per pupil expenditures, Mandan is well below the state average. State average is $14,346 per pupil. In 22-23, we spent $12,269. Last year, 23-24, we spent, I'm going to forget the number we just had it, $12,488, I believe is what it was. So we are well below state average. I'm not sure how to say this. I kind of look this as almost an efficiency measure of what we're doing with our dollars or how we're spending them. We rank 119th out of 146, so we do run fairly efficient compared to our peers. You can see most of our Class A peers are above us. They spend more dollars per pupil. Our general fund school mill levy comparison. This is going to include for Mandan our general fund mills, which is our 60 mills, and then our miscellaneous fund where we levy 12 mills. So we levy 72 mills locally. A lot of districts are much higher than us. You can see our Class A peers. We are the lowest on here outside of McKenzie County, who is capped due to some large taxable valuation increases over the years. If we need to, there is the capacity for us to levy more in our general fund, but as of right now, we have a healthy ending fund balance. Our carryover is healthy. I don't think there's any need for us to go up in our general fund mills right now. Total mill levies. The difference between our general fund and our total mill levy is going to be our building fund, where we levy 18 mills, special assessments, where we levy 2.75, and then our voter-approved debt repayments, which was roughly 35 mills last year. So our total mill levy last year was 127.22, which is higher than the state average of 108.72. But again, we're in the neighborhood of our Class A peers. I do know there's districts on here that are below us right now that will be jumping us in the near future due to recently passed referendums. So. Our ending fund balance. The board, you have set a goal to carry over 12% of our expenditures annually. In 23-24, which is the year we just ended, we're at 15.37%. Next year, I am projecting a slight deficit on our budget, which will bring that ending fund balance percentage down to 14%. I'm not as confident in next year's budget, I'll be honest with you. I think opening a high school, trying to operate 2 buildings for a while is causing some variance there. So that's going to be for our Facilities and Finance Committee to kind of monitor and bring back to the board throughout the year. And I'll do that as well, make sure that to keep you on top of how we're performing. Our proposed budget for next year, looking at a slight deficit for next year of $250,000. It's essentially a balanced budget. Again, not feeling real comfortable. The high school is not fully decommissioned. We're going to have to pay overhead on the old building while trying to open up the new one. I think there's some variables this year that's going to make that number change maybe a little more than it has in the past. Our new school's tax impact. This is probably the number one question that I get asked out in the community pretty regularly. So just kind of a little rundown of what's happened to date, and then I'll go over our numbers on the next slide. In April of 2021, the community overwhelmingly passed a referendum for $84 million to build Lakewood Elementary and the Mandan High School. In July of 21, we sold $47.4 million in bonds. We've taken out $30 million in school construction loans since then. And on August 5th, we sold an additional $21.5 million in bonds. I have been asked, yes, that's more than $84 million. The amounts over that $84 million are being repaid out of our building fund with an established mill levy that was already in place, just so you're aware. Interest rates have been very good. That initial $47.4 million sale was done at 1.6%. We borrowed $30 million at 2%. And then even the 21.5 we recently sold at 3.62. Very, very happy with interest rates and repayment on those bonds. The total repayment on those bonds is a 19.05 mill levy increase over our baseline year of 2021. This is how the math breaks down. That 19.05 mil increase per $100,000 of true and full value on your house equates to $85.73 increase over our baseline funding of our tax year. If you remember when we were out doing our presentations for the referendum, we told taxpayers we would not exceed $99 per $100,000 of valuation. We have done that. So this is in part due to good interest rates. Our valuations have increased, and we were able to pay off our middle school debt early to make sure that we've met those goals. Then finally, our proposed mill levy for this year. On column 1, you can see last year's mill levy. Our tax bill valuation was $184 million. We levied 60 mills in the general fund, 12 in the miscellaneous. Special assessments, which again are streets, curb, gutter repairs that we do, of 2.75 mills. Our building fund is 18 mills. That is capped due to a voter approval, and I want to say the mid-1970s. And then our sinking in interest was 34.47. That is the repayment of our voter-approved projects. So total mill levy last year of 127.22. This year, I am proposing the same mill levy. We're going to drop our miscellaneous mill levy by 1 mil to 11. Our sinking in interest goes up slightly to that 35.45. Those would be the changes. So it's important to know, if your valuation stayed the same on your homes, your tax bill for the school will stay the same. So we have no control over valuations. As a community, they went up roughly 5.5% this year. We have no control over our valuation increases. So.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Legacy?
I guess I do, and I don't know, the general mill levy to 60, back a few slides, the state kicks in, what was it, 11,000 per student?
In Mandan, it's $2,400 roughly is what they kick in.
Or the state kicks in 8,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, state.
Yes,
Right.
8,400.
yes.
And we right.
Anyway, and that's, with our local mill levy at 60. Can we lower those mills to 50?
We
And
can-
the state's gonna kick in more?
No, we cannot. It's a partnership. Senator Cook used to always say it's a partnership between the state and a local school district. We levy 60 mills. That's the expectation for us to get to that 11,000, whatever. So if you looked on that sheet, McKenzie County, which is Watford City, only gets 19% of their revenue from the state because they generate so much locally. It's all based on your property tax value. So if you have a very property poor district without a lot of property value in it, the state will give you more. If you're a wealthy school district, you're going to take in less. The 60 mills that we levy, I guess a good way of looking at it is that if you want $11,072, you levy 60 mills and the state's going to take that entire amount away from you. So that really we don't get to keep any of the 60 mills if you assume that the state's given us $11,072 per student.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, comments?
I will just say we have a complicated formula because several school districts sued the state. Mandan was one of the school districts that sued the state. They were a friend of the court in, I think it was 2005, 2006 in that area. And we have the formula we have because it shouldn't matter what your zip code is, whether you're from Mandan or Munich or Crosby or Watford City or Wahpeton, all over the state, you're guaranteed the same amount to spend on each pupil.
Anything else you guys want to add? Anybody else have anything? Comments, questions? All right, then I'll open it up for public input. Public input tonight. Step up to the podium if you want to provide any information. State your name and your address so we have it for the record in regard to that. The board will take input and will utilize anything you provide for any future discussions we have before we approve the budget. I think at the next meeting we got to approve it, correct?
It will be at the October 7th meeting is when you'll take final action on the budget.
So if anybody wants to provide any input, please step up to the podium and state your name and your address. Anybody wish to provide any input? Anybody wish to provide any input? Seeing nobody coming to the podium, we'll move on. The next item is adjournment. We'll adjourn the budget hearing. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.